Alrighty, everyone, welcome to another episode of the TSG Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Arian, and I have another special guest with me today. I have Coach Jaime here with me. Jaime, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Arian.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on. For this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about your experience when it comes to online coaching versus in-person coaching, because that's something you do. But before we get into the topic, I want kind of people to learn a little bit more about you. We have people that listen to our podcast, all over the world. They may not know you as a coach, or they may, but they want to learn some more about you. So if you can give like a little background as far as how you got into lifting, how you got into powerlifting, how you got into coaching, those kind of things.
Thank you. So it's my pleasure to be here having a great talk with you. Maybe having that opportunity of helping someone with or talk. So yeah, just ask me. We are going to go to the different topics.
Yeah. So at first you want to go into kind of how you got into lifting weights first. Like, was it, as a kid? Was it in school? Or was it like?
Yeah, it was at 15 years old. I was overweight for some years. I was a bit fat, and I wanted to change that. I never liked that kind of trendy sports or the common sports, football, basketball. I looked to the Olympics and I saw the Olympic weightlifting, and I wanted to do something like that. But in my small city, Cadiz, it wasn't any weightlifting club. So I just found club, a little like a super small gym, and they were okay to have me just doing some exercise to lose some weight and maybe see how it goes, because by that time in Spain it was, I don't know if it was in Spain or just my region of Spain, Andalusia, but it wasn't possible to train with weight, to do strength training under 18 years old. So they accepted me with the condition of going with my father. So we started to go to that gym. I just tried to lift some weight on Friday evening, because I was only allowed to do some cardio and abs work. On Friday evening, the boss of the gym wasn't there, so I went to the lifting weights room and just started to do something. And I have that kind of personality. Sorry, I have to know what I'm doing, and I started to look at some web page and some blogs in internet. Just I don't know exactly when I met powerlifting for the first time, but it should be at 17 years old or maybe 16. But I started to train the squat, bench, and dead like at 17. Yeah.
Did you try out any snatch and clean and jerk as well, or you went straight to powerlifting?
No, I went straight to powerlifting, because once I started to do strength training, resistance training, I love it, bodybuilding, because I was trying to lose some weight and to have a more aesthetic body. Yes, I looked at what it was by that time. It was really trendy on social media. The fitness model, something like not main physique of bodybuilding, but I remember Steve Cook and some celebrities like him. I wanted to have that body, but I realized that I should lift like heavy in squat bench, but I didn't want to do deadlift because I thought that I was going to get injured on my back. So I started without deadlifting, and I met someone at some point that introduced me to powerlifting, and I started to follow people from powerlifting. I realized the wrong things or the bad things that are linked to bodybuilding in terms of health, and I started to lift more heavy on heavy, and I ended up doing powerlifting.
Got it. And people might see you now, people who maybe follow you on Instagram and be like, oh my God, Jaime is so ripped or whatever, so in shape and strong, everything. But maybe they didn't realize that, hey, as a teenager, you were very overweight and you had to first get into lifting to get to where you are now. When you first got into lifting, when you're first going to the gym, doing cardio, like lifting weights, did you find it like you quickly got into good shape, or was it like a very long struggle for you to kind of get to where you are now?
It's been a long road. It's been 15 years for now. This year will be the year of my life where I'm training the same years and not training in my life. So I'm having 30 years old this year. So 15 years of heavy training and 15 years of no training. But to be honest, the first year was crazy because I lose all the weight that I had to lose. I started to build some muscle mass. My body changed radically. I looked like a whole different person, and it was really easy to get not easy but quick. It was easy in terms of everyone knows that you have to eat a bit less, to prioritize protein, and to lift heavy, to do some kind of physical activity like walking or running or cycling. And I just do that. But obviously gaining strength to the, I don't know, national level powerlifting competition or having like a super jacket physique, it is a long way. You have to be really patient. You have to really like the process.
Yeah. And so then you got into lifting weights, you heard about Olympic weightlifting, you heard about powerlifting. What age did you first start competing in powerlifting?
19 years old. It was, yes, I think that it was in 2016. And yes, I had, I think that it should be somewhere close to to my birthday, but I'm not sure if I had, but I think, yeah, 19 years old.
Okay. So yeah, you waited a few years of being in the gym and then start competing.
Yes.
And then you've been competing for quite a while now. When did you kind of feel like, hey, maybe I should get into the coaching aspect of it, or what made you get into the coaching aspect after competing?
It was really organic because when I was competing, I was already coaching people, not coaching, but I was helping my friends, not friends even, because people in a really small city, we used to know each other really easy. I turned it from being overweight to have a really good physique, to be really strong. People were asking me how I did it. I was just trying to help them out and to share my knowledge. By this time, I was studying engineering, but I was at the same point I was studying not in the university or something like that, but I was learning how to train and how to eat properly. and I just fall I just felt helping people and earning some money from that. At some point in my university degree in engineering, I was like, oh shit, should I keep doing that, or should I turn my life into sports? I turned it into sports science, and I started the university degree in sports science and do it more professional.
Cool. It sounds very similar to a lot of people that kind of like, yeah, you maybe help friends or family or maybe other people in the gym kind of see your results and like start talking to you and become friends with you and ask you for help or whatever, bounce different ideas off each other, and you kind of slowly get into it that way. And you're another person. There seems to be a lot of engineers that are into lifting weights, and some of them that maybe still do engineering and coach, or maybe like gave up engineering and switched over to coaching. So along this way as well, lifting weights at 15, kind of getting into powerlifting at 19, switching your degree. When did you decide to like kind of open up your own gym and be able to like then run your own business?
I was finishing my degree in sports science, and I was a bit burned of working online because I was already working online. In Spain, for me, we grew a lot in powerlifting. Everything got much professional here in Spain, but and this is something that I talked with a lot of Spanish coaches. We have to earn more money from that, and it was difficult because every Spanish coach was having low fees, and it was difficult to have like a more stable work from that. And I was thinking about living in Spain and just moving to another country in Europe, something like Netherlands or something like that, because I had a friend in Netherlands that told me, hey Jaime, here there is a lot of work. The salaries are great. In Spain, not for powerlifting, for everything, things are going worse and worse. Came here. I'm going to help you. On the other side, my dream was to have my own gym, and I have to decide between both because I was going to keep my online work, but to focus in something in person because I love that in-person touch and getting in touch with people like on the daily basis. I talked with my parents about it. They support me, not on the economic side, but they told me that they wanted me to be in Spain, in Cadiz, and it was my city for my whole life. And I think that I thought that I could do something great here and to change a bit the idea of strength training in my city, because it's a small city. Everything goes a bit slower in small city than compared to big cities, for example, in Spain, Madrid or Barcelona. And to be honest, I think that there wasn't anyone like training properly, strength training in Cadiz. So I wanted to do something different and just give it a try.
And so what year was it when you opened up your gym?
Sorry?
What year was it when you opened up?
2022. Yeah, 2022. I decided to this in 2021, and I opened the gym mid 2022. Yes.
Cool. So yeah, you had the gym open for a few years now, and so that kind of leads into the topic we want to talk about, which is like, some coaches may start in person and then go online. Some coaches now maybe start online, stay online, or maybe then transition to kind of half and half, kind of like you. It seems like you kind of already said some of the things, like maybe you felt a little bit burned out from online coaching and you maybe like in-person coaching. What are maybe like some of your favorite things as far as a coach that you like about in-person coaching? Why do you think like it's better for you?
Yes, the thing is that life could change a lot in years. And you came with Jason in 2023 to Cadiz. By this year, I had the opportunity to be part of TSG by really the end of this year, but I started to learn from you by 2023. I discovered that there is plenty more than we think, always. And it was my case in online coaching. So I fell in love again in 2023 with online coaching. At the same time, the gym was going good. It is not the usual gym, because it is split in different rooms. We do like a lot of personal training. By this time, because now it's different, by this time we had like one part of the gym was for powerlifting training. I was obviously a coach in the powerlifting gym, but you could train if I wasn't your coach. But the other part was personal training and small group training, and that was more focused in general people, sports injury rehab. And now we are switching a bit the model of the gym. In fact, I just opened 3 weeks ago a new enterprise inside of my gym. We have like a more commercial group training for young people, based in the strength training, but a bit different that what we were doing, because it's what the people are asking for. But we are keeping the injury rehab, the small groups for old people, like 70, 80 years old people. Like powerlifting took a smaller role in this gym, because in Spain we had a big drop in powerlifting over the last year, and it happened the same in Cadiz, because as a small city, everything goes like more aggressively. So we dropped a lot in the powerlifting community, and I had to switch the model because we have to earn money. And I like training people in person, because obviously the big difference is communication. You can communicate better when you have the people in front of you. And I love helping people with sports injury rehab. I know people that do it online. I don't know how to help people with injuries online. I help sometimes I help my athletes via online with injuries or pains that they have. But I do it much better in person, because you can touch the people, you can try to do the exercise that you are teaching. It is really, really, really more easy to communicate everything, in special for people that don't have a background in sports or sports science. And online gives you a different perspective of helping people, because you have to communicate via a laptop or the mobile phone, and you have to organize your work to be to be sustainable over time. In my case, I think that my work is based in the email. I use it to use a lot of social media and WhatsApp to be more specific, and it could be a bit draining if you don't know how to drive it properly. And for me, it's a whole different world between the in-person and online. But you can learn from both, and you can do a whole different work in both.
Yeah, and I think over the years, online is maybe getting better just because we have like better technology. You know, we can film with better cameras, so the coach can then be able to analyze things. You can maybe do live calls and be able to like watch the person in real time doing a squat or something like that. And so like that technology is getting better, but yeah, the in-person still seems better as far as, like you said, you can like be able to touch the person, put them in the proper position. You can demonstrate things for them before they do it. You can watch as a coach from different angles. Obviously, you watching it is going to be better quality than watching on any kind of phone or camera or anything like that. You can then make quicker changes to, you know, if you're going to change the protocol, or if you're going to change the exercise, everything like that, versus online still can then be a little bit slow with the feedback loop. Like, okay, they send you their update, then you have to go and be like, okay, for the next week, let's go make these changes. Now we've maybe have to wait till next week to see the results. Whereas if you're in person, you can see those results maybe immediately in the same session. So yeah, it seems like online is slowly getting better and better, and there's more apps out there that now can like analyze your bar path and speed and everything like that. But in person still seems to kind of dominate that, and especially for like beginners. I always tell people, like, sometimes we have people to come to TSG, or even before, when I was TSG or before TSG, is people will come and maybe sign up for coaching. And the first thing when I have a talk with them is I ask them like how experienced they are with the power lifts and maybe sending footage of their training. Because, for example, I had once someone send me footage and like they were like doing a half squat. They weren't even touching their chest on bench press, and their butt was up, their head was up and everything. And I was like, this is going to be very challenging to go through and fix this online, and it's going to be slower. I said, where do you live? Let's find you a good enough coach in person and pay for them for 3, 4, 5 sessions. Go to them and learn how to set up and execute every single lift with just the empty bar, and first learn the movement patterns. Once you get experience with the movement patterns, then you can maybe look into an online coach, because the online coach is going to be able to help you with more minor details for technique, more programming, more peaking for competitions, those kind of things. So like, really, if someone's very basic and needs to learn the beginner stuff, I always tell them like, hey, find someone in person first.
Yes, that is a strategy that I use because I have my own training center. For some people that are just starting the sport, I help them in person. First, we have like some sessions in person, and I teach them how to squat, how to bench, how to deadlift properly, how you say it with really low weights. Then we can start a program. But it is really challenging to start training someone from zero online. You can do it, obviously. Like you said, today with everyone having a camera in their mobile phone and having internet 24/7, it is really easy on the logistical way. But communication could be a bit raw because, you say that I upload the video, then I have to wait my coach to see the video. My coach will give me the feedback. I will reply. He will reply me, and it is a bit longer. And in person, it is really easy sometimes to teach someone to squat from zero to a perfect squat in 30 minutes. And for me, it is the best option to combine teaching someone from zero, and then start like a programming after. We don't have to be training together to have that follow on their training. But once the base is there, you only have to program and to check the form and check that everything is going well. But I know that for most of people, it could be a bit difficult to find someone to have a in-person session, especially someone that could teach you the basics of powerlifting, because we are here to talk about powerlifting. Then finding like a good online coach. It depends, obviously, if you live in a big city with a lot of options, but just thinking, if you are from a little village, there is only one trainer in the village, and you have to have some in-person sessions, it could be a bit difficult. But for me, it's the best way. Obviously, it's not affordable for everyone, because in-person work will be more, will have a higher cost. But for me, it's perfect. And it depends, obviously, if you have an injury that will limit your pattern or your range of motion, you will have to look for a coach that could adapt you more specifically to your limitation. Sometimes will be a bit even more difficult, because at this point we have a lot of options, and when you have many options, it's even more difficult, because you can be stressed about just not knowing who to choose, you know.
Yeah, agree. You went over a number of points there. One of the things that came to my mind is, one of the cons you said as far as in-person coaching is access to a quality coach. That's one of the reasons why people go online, to have access to more coaches around the world. And I know from my experience, even in a big city, I live in Miami, Florida, which is maybe a big city like Madrid in Spain. And so when I got into lifting in 2002, there were no powerlifting gyms in Miami, even though it's a very big city. There was the commercial gyms, and then maybe some like underground, like hardcore, like bodybuilding gyms, since bodybuilding is like very popular for many decades. And so that's all there was. And then I remember I went to a small town in a different state, Tulsa, Oklahoma, a small town for engineering job. And that's the first time I had heard of a 24/7 access like strength gym. I was like, wait a second, I can just go to the gym whenever I want, and they have squat racks, they have monoliths, they have benches, they have like specialty bars, they have a glute ham raise. I'm like, holy crap, this is actually a real thing. So that's kind of when I started noticing it. Was like 2012 was kind of when things started building up. And then 2013, when I came back to Florida, one of my friends that I went to university with, he opened up a powerlifting gym in South Florida. So he opened up his own 24-hour access powerlifting gym, opened up another location as well soon after that. And that's kind of when it started building up, I think, in the US. It's like in Miami, we got one powerlifting gym, and then now we have like 3 or 4 powerlifting gyms. A couple are bigger, some are smaller, some are a mix of bodybuilding and powerlifting and stuff like that. But at least now, like in a major city like that, we have multiple powerlifting gyms. For example, in New York City, there's like 3 or 4 powerlifting gyms now. There, one in like Manhattan, a few of them in Brooklyn. So like now it's becoming a regular thing in a lot of places when you're in more developed countries and bigger cities and stuff like that, or areas where powerlifting tends to be more popular and people want to kind of invest in owning their own gym. But yet it's still hard to find gyms in certain places that have quality equipment, quality coaches, those kind of things. And so that seems to be improving over the years. And if powerlifting continues to grow all around the world, it maybe continues to improve, where then maybe a lot of powerlifters have access to coaches locally to them. But it still takes time. And also because our sport is cyclical, if right now things are kind of like contracting in some states, then maybe some gyms will also close down and it'll be more challenging again. So then people may look for online in that aspect.
Yes, I think that I can give like a different perspective, especially for people that are from USA, because USA is much different. You are pioneer in terms of strength training, I think, in the world. Maybe someone could be mad about that, but I think that is the reality. Um, Take note that Spain is a big country in Europe, but Spain is like a state in the USA. Um, we had a civil war not many years ago. We were a poor country many years ago. Everything comes here later, especially for the strength training. We are really good at some things, obviously. I don't want any Spanish people getting mad with these words, but it's the reality. I travel a lot over the world. Um, you realize that everything is a bit slower in Spain. That point that you mentioned, when your city turned from not having any powerlifting gym or club, like this was my case, to having 3, 4, 5 clubs, specific powerlifting clubs, or at least gyms that have powerlifting, specific powerlifting equipment. I think that this happened in Spain between 2020 and 2021. I think that our big boom in powerlifting was in 2021, somewhere between 2021 and 2022. And it is a bit slower because when I grew up, I mentioned when I have 15 years old, it was 15 years ago, children were not allowed to train because people thought that it was a bad thing for your health. Now everyone is talking about how good is strength training for health, for children, for old people, for injured people, for people with mental health issues. Right now, everyone, even the doctors, are telling people to train. In my case, it was a really big difference over these 4 years. This year, I will make 4 years opened as a gym owner. I remember in the first year, first 1 or 2 years, doctors were telling people to not train when they have injuries, when they have spinal problems with their back, when they have, I don't know, knee problems, when they have arthritis at 80 years old. And now doctors are telling people to train. People come to my gym, people with a lot of injuries, with mental health problems, with problems of having being 8 years old. Doctors are telling them that it is mandatory to train with weights, and that would be crazy 10 years ago. 10 years is not that much, but I think that it should happen earlier in USA, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear for you to say, "Hey, I'm 15 years old and they didn't allow me to lift weights," and some of that is cultural, because I've talked to many people like in Asia where they may say like it's kind of frowned upon, maybe even still now, but before, for like women to lift weights, and so like they would have gyms that are maybe only for men and maybe a different section for women that weren't like strength training and everything like that. Whereas like in the US, yeah, even though we still have people that think like, oh, kids shouldn't lift weights, and it may stunt their growth, and it's kind of been like that before. Even now, it is still a lot more open. Like my cousin took me to a commercial gym when I was 14 years old, and like my parents like signed me up and let me go. They didn't care that like a 14-year-old's in their gym lifting weights and stuff like that. Before that, like my mom would have like some dumbbells at home, and me and my brother would be doing like curls with the dumbbells or doing like pull-ups and push-ups, and especially with like other sports, if maybe people are into like football, American football here, let's say, when they're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, as they're going through school, they may be doing some strength training as well to get better at the football. And so people here are starting younger, and it is seen more as a normal thing, whereas maybe in other countries or other cultures, there's maybe rules against it or it's frowned upon, those kind of things.
Yes. Another thing is that I don't know, Arian, how is your case, but I think all powerlifting coach will have injured athletes at some point, because competing at a high level always will bring you at some point to a injury or to several injuries in the worst cases. So in my case, like we were talking, I work with people for injury rehab in person, and having that work online sometimes is difficult, because I learned to communicate people how normal is to have pain or aches, to analyze which is the range of motion that the injured person that I am working with have, or how much strength they could have at some point of the range of motion. And it is really difficult to do that online, even if you learned properly how to do it in person. Even having a call like we are having right now, it could be really challenging to teach someone from, you can have an athlete that is not a coach and don't have like a big knowledge in sports science. And yes, it is really challenging to analyze which is the starting point, because if you want to have everything, but especially our rehab, you have to analyze which is the starting point. You have later to build the way to end up being pain-free. For me, sometimes it's really challenging, because yes, I use a lot of theory of science, the pain in terms of the scientific side, how works the pain. Having that communication via a call could be a bit cold sometimes. People with pains, especially an athlete that is training for a competition, or maybe his life is around the sport and now is injured. Maybe that kind of people will not have the patience that you should have, and how important is having a cold mind in that way. And yes, having a call to discuss about your injury is not the same that sitting in the same room and talking about that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not an expert when it comes to rehab stuff, and we've had Dom and Emily on one of our episodes. Yes. People can go listen to that if they want to hear more about the injury management, and they do in person and online. And yeah, like that, it's the same thing. It comes down to kind of like, well, how good is the coach as far as like knowing, what kind of tests to do when they're not there, how to explain the tests when they're not there, what equipment to use that maybe works around those injuries. But also then it comes on the athlete to know how to kind of perform things. So like I used to have some lower back pain, and I went and did a call with Emily and Dom. But because, I have the flexibility as far as like, having the time to schedule with them. I know how to set up the video to give them the right angle. I know maybe how to do the test if they explain to me, hey, externally rotate your leg or something like that, or hey, get a mat and step in this position, whatever, because I have some more base knowledge. But if someone comes and maybe they don't know how to set up their body, they don't know how to set up a machine to do a certain type of test, and then you're like not there to like show them or guide them, it becomes more and more of a challenge that way. And then again, the feedback loop is that like, yeah, if you're there in person as a coach and you have the experience as far as strength training, you have the experience as far as injury management, you have experience as far as the gym, what kind of equipment they have, what kind of tools you can use, then you can go through and say, hey, let's warm up on squats. Okay, that's not working. Let's switch to box squats, or it's not working. Let's go over to leg press and kind of go through that process. Whereas for like me, I have to maybe like tell my athlete like, hey, test out this exercise for this protocol. If the pain goes to this level, then go to option B. Test out option B then. If that hurts, then, then maybe go to option C. And then I have to just wait and see, what happened to them, how far did they get through, wait for their check-in, especially because, again, if you're online coaching, maybe my athlete's training when I'm sleeping. So we can't even do like live updates or whatever because it's a different time zone. And so I have to just wait till the end of the week to see what they tried out. If they follow the directions properly, where they get to then make the adjustment. Whereas again, if you're in person, it's quicker feedback loops. You can kind of get through to an exercise they can do pain-free. You can kind of get to a solution faster, and maybe even get them back to 100% at a faster rate.
Yes, I think that when you're working online, I don't care if it is powerlifting specific or injury rehab or just losing weight or something like that. It will ask for the client, for the athlete, to be more, to not depend of having someone there 24/7, because any coach could work 24/7. And for me, another big difference, for now, just talking about specific powerlifting training, a big difference between the in-person and online, it is how important is your knowledge or not. I mean, one of my strengths as a powerlifting coach, online powerlifting coach, would be the programming, the numbers behind the program, what makes better the athlete over years, and not having injuries, not having that big plateaus. But in person, I wouldn't say that doesn't matter, but what are looking in-person clients is more like someone to have that accountability, to see him every other week, someone to inspire them to move and do. It doesn't care if it's powerlifting or just general movement, but to have someone that is like an inspiration for them, and having that connection of communication between both parts. But obviously, you have to know a lot of things to have that knowledge. Yeah, but the role of the coach, I think that it is really different. It is like when I'm working with someone in person, that knowledge that I have about programming doesn't matter at that point. I'm working with someone in person and I'm thinking, okay, I know a lot of things of programming, of technical adjustments, but now this person needs a whole different thing. Needs someone that could give a professional support, just the right word to make a technical adjustment, or just telling them that they can do it. And this doesn't happen at the elite level performance of powerlifting when you are using that much knowledge of programming and that technical support,
Yeah, I agree. An important thing you noted there is, again, like another pro I would say for in person is like the accountability. And especially, like, I would say the more you go towards general fitness, or people who just want to get in shape, people that are just doing it as a hobby maybe, then accountability becomes more important, because they're less likely to go to the gym if it's just like someone gives them a program online. They're like, maybe I'll go tomorrow. Or if like they're just going to go maybe work out with a friend, their friend doesn't want to go to the gym, they back out, so then they back out as well. And so then having a personal trainer or a coach becomes more important as far as accountability. Like, I have an appointment with this coach, I'm paying them, I'm going to go, and then they're going to get through the workout. And so yeah, maybe the programming becomes less important, the showing up and accountability of having a coach becomes more important, and then the coach can work on technique and maybe slowly work on focusing more on programming and getting them more motivated, consistent. But even then, I've noticed with like people that try and take powerlifting maybe more serious, all the way up to maybe elite level powerlifters, we're all human. No one's perfect. People get lazy sometimes. They don't want to work out. Sometimes people don't want to warm up properly, or do their excessive work, or do their cardio, or do their nutrition, or the other things like that. And so I think in-person coach or powerlifting coaching can still be important, because, for example, I've had times where I have all online athletes, so I don't always see everything, like what they actually do for their warm-ups and stuff. Then we show up to the national championship and they're like, on bench I warm up with 70 kilos for the first set. And I'm like, your max is like 100 kilos or 120 kilos. Your first warm-up should not be 70 kilos, but they're too lazy. They're like, no, I'll just throw on a red plate and get started. And so then again, if you're there as a coach, you can hold them accountable to warming up properly, doing the right sets, doing the right reps, doing the right timing, getting through all their working sets without taking 20-minute rests, getting through their accessory work. A lot of powerlifters sometimes get lazy when it comes to accessory work. If they have to do any kind of prehab or rehab work for like an injury, which you discussed, then again, being accountable and actually doing that stuff correctly. Then even for, I would say, people that are serious about powerlifting and the elite level powerlifters, it still becomes a very important factor. And again, things like auto regulation. A lot of people overshoot the RPs. Oh yeah, man, it was an RP 8 single, and you see it, they weren't even pausing it. It was like an RP 9, and it's like, well, if your coach was there, they'd probably hold you more accountable to doing the correct weight. So I think that's an important aspect for everyone. And again, it comes maybe down to personality, and what kind of personality type you have to like hold yourself accountable to every little thing. People are like very scientific and like very like doing things exactly as the coach tells them, and other people are just like, I can like wing it here or wing it there. My buddies told me let's like do something else or whatever like that. And so that kind of becomes one of the factors as well for in-person versus online.
Yes, that's a really good point for me, because it is funny, because it happened the same to me, to not knowing someone in person, I mean, and working for years online, then meeting at a competition and seeing what they are doing for warm-up or something like that, and oh shit, this shouldn't be on that way. It happened. I think that it happens on pretty much every opportunity that I met someone for the first time in a competition. But that's an important thing. And I had a lot of people from Spain that I train, or even from Europe, when there is even a really small possibility of meeting in person and having 1 or 2 sessions, you can you can see some things that you didn't see before, and that could be really beneficial for both. I remember the first time that I had the opportunity to train with my coach, with Ben. He was in Cádiz as well. It is funny because it's a small city, and I had 4 TSG coaches in Cádiz. I had Jason, Ben, you, and Juliana. It is fun because all elite coaches were in a small city. I had that opportunity of being with Ben, training together. We worked on some technical aspects that we couldn't fix online. And I was already an advanced lifter, and he's an an elite coach. But meeting in person and working on these things in person could be really beneficial. In this case, I think that he lives something like 10,000 kilometers away. So I don't know when we are going to meet in person again. So having that opportunity of, yes, only with 1 or 2 sessions, you can make adjustments that would be a potential really big difference. And yeah, especially with people who are already advanced. You want to see how the lift looks in person, because you mentioned the RPE thing as well. And to me, it happens that sometimes you see a lift in person, and it probably looked like a tight lift, like a raw lift. Then you see the video and it looks super smooth. Take note that if you always see a lifter in the videos, and you're looking these videos and everything looks on point, but maybe in person it looks like a whole different thing. It is a thing as well. I'm thinking about Marcos' case. You know, Marcos started with me when he was just starting lifting but he was talented, obviously. He was doing 140 something in squats, and he was training with about like 4 months. We ended up being a junior world champion, national champion, European bronze, just behind Josh, the athlete of the German lifter of Jason. We had a long way together. He's not he's not doing powerlifting right now, but I don't know how it would be our career if we didn't live in the same city and trained together from pretty much all the years that we worked together. How different could be the relationship? Because, you know, when you bring a lifter from zero or from just starting in the sport to the highest level, the relationship is really, really, really important, because there will be some good times, some good months, good years, but there will be really difficult moments to go through. Marcos had his worst moments before getting a world title in juniors. He got injured 5 weeks out of the competition. We have to battle with this injury. Of course, our relationship played a big role there. I had the case of Ana, who is from Spain. She's actually my strongest lifter. She just competed at Europeans. we were smashing PBs, comp after comp. Okay, she's from Spain, but we don't live together. We don't live in the same city. We trained together just a few times. We see each other in the competitions, but yeah, we don't have that daily relationship like I had with Marcos. And both were really a success, but it's different. I don't know if you, Arian, had the opportunity of having something like that, but it is different when you have a relationship with a lifter that you coached for years and you see him on daily.
Yeah, it's definitely different aspects again to online versus in person. And one of the things you're mentioning kind of like in person is like that additional relationship that you may see each other on a weekly basis. You may then also do things outside the gym, like maybe going to eat together or like hanging out together. I've had some people that I would do kind of like hybrid, like you said, where maybe they lived in South Florida like me, but they weren't close. But like on Saturdays, we'd meet up at my friend's powerlifting gym. I would drive up like an hour. They would drive down maybe 30, 45 minutes. And then we'd be able to like train at least once a week together. And so I'd have some of my athletes just come there on Saturdays. We train together. And so obviously then we'd hang out maybe afterwards together. One of them was a high school student, and like her mom would come and drop her off at the gym. So I'd meet her mom, meet her dad. Her mom would like go get us like lunch and come back to the gym and like give me lunch and stuff like that. So yeah, you develop a different relationship with that person. I hear more about her as far as like what university she wanted to go to, what she wanted to like study, different things like that about her family, all that stuff. And so you develop oftentimes a better relationship when it's in person, or kind of like you hinted at, it's maybe doing some kind of hybrid. So if you are in person, you can maybe transition to where maybe you're meeting up in person 1 or 2 sessions, but then the athletes may be doing 1 or 2 sessions on their own. So the benefit of that is maybe it's a lower cost for them. As a coach, it maybe gives you more availability to work with other athletes, and also gives them a little bit more autonomy to kind of figure things out on their own. But then the flip side can be beneficial as well. If you're an online coach, finding ways to do some in person if you can. So that can be maybe if you live somewhat close to each other, maybe driving somewhere in the middle, meeting up once a week, once a month or something like that. Maybe as a coach, it can be beneficial to do some kind of team meetup or some kind of seminar where then you meet up. So for example, there's times where I've run competitions in New York City for my friend in their gym. So I'm going to New York City and have athletes that live near New York. So I'm saying, hey, I'm coming into town this weekend to run this competition. If you guys want to meet up Friday afternoon, let's meet up and get a training session together. So sometimes I would get training sessions with my athletes that live up there. Or we would do like a seminar and have like people from the gym come and also any of my athletes around come, and we do a seminar and be able to go over technical stuff and then go work out together, and be able to get the benefit of coaching in person, but also just building that relationship. Because there are like some athletes that I've had that I've coached for maybe 3, 4, or 5 years. I've never even met in person. So it just feels different that like, hey, you're just talking to them in text message, you're talking to them on a Zoom call, maybe doing like video calls, like FaceTime, whatever, but you're never actually seeing them in person. So actually next month at our Masters Nationals, one of my clients who's competing there, it'll be like, I've been coaching him for like 5 years, 6 years. And it's gonna be like the first time I'm actually gonna see him in person. We're actually gonna be like coaching at a competition together and stuff like that. So it definitely is a different relationship of something like that, where maybe you never meet the person, or maybe you meet him once per year at nationals or once or twice per year at a national, international, versus someone that maybe you can meet once a month, once a week or something like that, and develop a better relationship.
Yes. How different is to coach people for competing online versus being there for their competition? It's not the same to handling in person someone who is competing and is your athlete, when you have to just give the competition plan, the game plan, and just expect that everything will go under your plan and will go on that way. That's a big thing to talk as well, because I always have the feeling, in some way, is a fact that when you are in person coaching people in competition, you can have a better control of anything, of everything. Sorry, of the warm up, of the attempt selection, because you only have 1 minute to choose the weight for the next attempt once you hit the opener, and you don't have the time. If you are online, you don't have the time to see the attempt, to text the coach or the handler or the athlete, and to tell that way, and they have to choose the way, and to give the attempt card to the jury or to the referee. It is a whole different world. It's really taxing. I don't know how is your case, but for me, being in a competition handling for a whole weekend is really taxing, because you have a lot of, it's not only your work, because you have the emotions, you have to load the bar, you have to make a lot of the decisions over the weekend. Yes, it is way more taxing, but I love to coach people in competition.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of my favorite aspects of everything we do as a coach is the meet day handling, because that's like game day. You're there for the final moment, and you're there for like the fun of maximizing this everything for your athletes and having them have a good experience. And maybe it's a battle as well, so you get that fun aspect of it. But yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, is that it's tough when you can't be there for whatever reason, and so then you have to maybe rely on the athlete maybe handling themselves. Maybe you can find a coach that is knowledgeable and can help you out, or maybe they get a friend who maybe knows some, and then it's like, well, then how much information can you provide to them? Provide them with attempts, provide them with warm-up weights, warm-up reps, timing of warm-ups. In the US here, sometimes athletes don't know kilograms, so having the conversion to pounds and what plates to load and all that kind of stuff. But then even then, situational things can happen at local competitions, and maybe it starts later, or maybe there's like not enough people in a flight and it's a very fast flight. Different things like that can be hard to handle. And I think it goes to all extremes, because you're like, hey, if you have an elite level athlete, maybe they know more of what they're doing and they can maybe find someone to help them out. But also at elite level, maybe the competition is even more important. So then as a coach, it's more important to dial in everything perfect and to maybe scout out the competition and change your strategy based on what athletes are doing, changing the final deadlift, all those kind of things. Then you might have someone who's a complete beginner doing a local competition. You're like, oh, it's a local competition. You don't have to worry about the competition. You can just focus on yourself. But someone who's more of a beginner may not know how to use a competition rack if they're used to like a squat rack in the gym, may not know kilogram plates if they're here in the US or somewhere where they use pound plates. They may not be as good at picking the proper attempt based on how much more they have left. So I think across all spectrums, there's different challenges when you are not there. And so, yeah, I always try and find someone to assist them if they can, someone that I trust that's knowledgeable, then provide them with as much information as possible to have them be successful. But even then, it doesn't always work out that way. And it's tough because the way I think about it is like there's different key aspects along the way from when you like start the training cycle to the competition that can make or break everything. So the way I think about it is like you can do everything right for 16 weeks of training. The person's progressing perfectly. They're heading towards PRs. You taper them. They make weight, everything. But then they screw up their temp selection and you don't get good results on how the training went, because now you're like, okay, I only hit 95% of what I was supposed to hit or what I thought I was supposed to hit because I messed up my warm up and I wasn't ready in time and I had to run out there for my first attempt and I didn't have my belt on me and it just completely ruined everything as far as that training. Or, you know, when it comes to programming, you can be preparing the person very well and then maybe mess up the peak or mess up the taper, or the athlete messes up their water cut or something like that. And so there's little key things that can kind of like ruin everything. So I think, again, that makes the competition day be a very important factor, because You've put all this time and effort into everything. Hopefully things have gone well. And now on this day, you have to execute and show the results of everything. And so, yeah, ideally, if I can be there, I go there, and I enjoy being there as well. But there's times where you just can't. Like, for example, I have an athlete competing right now in a local competition in Florida, but it's like 5 or 6 hours drive away. And so I'm busy this weekend too. I can't, go drive 5 or 6 hours, coach them, drive 5 or 6 hours back. Also in the US, we have the issue now as well with multiple federations. So if I have athletes in outside the IPF, then obviously I can't coach them at their competitions. And so I just provide as much information as I can to this athlete. He tries to find someone to help him out as well. And then I can try and support them along the way. Like you said, maybe you can message them during the competition, like, hey, great job on squats, keep up the good work on bench press, or hey, squats didn't go well, let's pull down the numbers a little bit on deadlift, and maybe guide them some during the competition as well.
Yes, you mentioned that you love the competition coaching. I remember that you were head coach for USA some years ago. I was head coach for Spain in 2024 for Open Worlds. How is that experience for you? As long as USA is a big team, is the best team right now in the sport.
Yeah, what I would say to add on to that too is you had mentioned early on in the podcast about the challenges of maybe like coaches not charging enough in Spain, and then it can be a challenge, to make it a living and maybe to take on more clients or try and charge more, and everyone kind of has to come together and charge maybe more to get their worth. And I think that's an issue as well with competition day handling, is that maybe a lot of people want to do it for free, or maybe you charge a small amount, but it's expensive to travel to some of these national, international competitions. So like the first World Championship I went to was in 2014 in South Africa, because a couple of our athletes from our university team made the World Championships. So I wanted to go there to be part of the experience with them and help them out. So for example, I paid $1,200 just for the plane ticket myself to go to South Africa, plus hotel and everything like that, to help out with those two athletes, and then also end up helping out in the warm-up room with other athletes on the team. And that's kind of how I got more and more into the national team coaching. So like it is expensive for us as coaches too, and it becomes an investment at some point, but then at a certain point you should be charging what your worth is as well. And so that's kind of how I got into it. First I just went on as a personal coach, then the following year the head coach was like kind of injured, and so a few of us other coaches came in and helped out the coaches, like maybe an assistant coach, and then we did back then 3-year terms. So once their 3-year term was up, I applied for the classic sub-junior and junior team, and I did that in 2016, 17, 18. That one was an experience on its own, was chasing down a bunch of kids, maybe trying to contact their parents to have them fill out the forms in time, buy their plane tickets and stuff, like talk to their parents about maybe how safe it is to travel to a certain country and that kind of thing. And oftentimes trying to be like, sometimes having to be the person that has the final say on temp selection, because maybe the kids don't know any better. It's the first championship they're going to. They have no experience. They're going to think they're going to do crazy numbers, and their parents sometimes coach them. And with any sport, parents always think their kid's the best. No, my kid's the best. My kid can do everything and stuff like that. So sometimes you have to then come and be like, hey, I'm the head coach and I'm making the final decision. And at the end of it, they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. Then after 2017, 2018, I applied for the Classic Open team. So I became the coach for the Classic Open team in 2019. And then that's when like COVID happened. So we didn't do 2020. USA got kicked out. So we didn't do 2021. So I kind of missed out on those other years. But as far as the 1 year for 2019, the experience was a little bit different. Now you're dealing with more adults. A lot of them had been on the team for many years before. And so they have a lot of experience with traveling, competing at world championships, knowing the rules, the equipment, all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes I became just kind of like what I would say like the safety net. Like, hey, make sure they don't bomb out or do anything like completely stupid to mess up their gold medal or their overall placing or anything like that. And then from there, let them do their style, whatever method they are for like kind of competing and stuff. Maybe give them suggestions and stuff like that beforehand to kind of finalize their game plan, but just kind of being there to like help them through the process, and especially a lot of the paperwork. I kind of joked about it back then, and I think it's a little bit relevant now as well, is that I would joke back then that the hardest part of making the US team was filling out the paperwork on time. Like it's not the winning the nationals. Like, these guys can win nationals easy back then when it was like Ray Williams, now it's Jesus or whatever. A lot of them can win nationals. It's not a problem. It's getting everything done by the deadlines and doing everything right by IPF standards to be nominated, to get your plane ticket, to stay at the competition hotel. So I would sometimes say like that's the hardest part. And the reason why I say it's relevant now is kind of we hear about like these couple athletes from the British Powerlifting Federation and how like they weren't doing their whereabouts form for anti-doping and they weren't like picking up with the calls or whatever the story was that led to these kind of strikes. Is like it wasn't a problem with how strong they are. It wasn't a problem with them winning competitions. It's a problem with them like filling out the forms on time, filling out properly, and being where they need to be to follow the IPF and the water rules. So that's kind of like my experience dealing with the kids, the sub-junior, juniors, and also the open. I don't know if your experience was similar or any different.
It was different because I only was head coach for one championship for the Open Wars in 2024, and it was a great experience because it is like the most important competition of the year internationally. I had the pleasure of being part of this, even if I didn't qualify as an athlete. And I had the experience of being personal coach because by this time in Spain, we didn't have like a good structure of our nationals and internationals team. So we had a different head coach for every other meet. And it was a great experience, but it was really stressful because you have a lot of responsibility. Right now, I'm the vice president of the Powerlifting Federation in Spain, and I am the team manager. So I do all the paperwork stuff, like you said. We have 4 head coaches for each team for Open, another for juniors, another for sub-juniors, and another for masters. So we have the workload more split. Everyone has their role. I prefer that right now because I can focus on being an athlete as well. Because if I have to coach people and being athlete in the same championship is really different. It's really difficult. Sorry, and especially if you are open and you have the open team to coach, I think that it couldn't be possible. And even if, for example, even if I was the junior head coach and I'm an upper lifter, if you are a coach or coach for a whole week in a competition, I don't know if people that are listening this know that, but normally international competitions should be like a whole week. It is really difficult to have that time for training. The training facilities are not always the best, and you can't keep your diet dialing in, the sleeping, because you are hanging out with the team, you are stressed. There is a lot going on. I don't know if I will be a head coach in the future, but for now, I prefer that. I love it to be to have the opportunity of being the head coach for Spain in Lithuania in 2024. But for now, I prefer what I'm doing now, and I'm supporting the team as well as a coach, but not the head coach.
Yeah, I would definitely back you on what you're saying as far as trying to coach and compete the same competition. I tried that as well a couple of times. And like, for example, one of my worst competitions ever was I made the North American Championship in 2015. I made the US team for that. And I was helping out the head coach as well with like building out the classic team and like assisting him with game day coaching. So I'm competing in like the classic open 93s, which is kind of like in the middle of the week, maybe like a little bit past the middle of the week. So I have to like coach, then compete, and then coach again. And so I'm coaching multiple days. And as you know, world championships or European championships, wherever, can tend to be long days. And you have to also, as a coach, oftentimes be there before for weigh-ins. So you have to be there maybe 6 a.m., waking up at 5 a.m., whatever. So all these long days, and then I have to compete. And so when I go to compete, obviously I weigh in light. I weighed in like under 90 kilos. And, the day started off all right, but I quickly like kind of started losing energy. And also when you're coaching, a lot of times you're stressing your lower back by loading plates on deadlift. That's kind of like the worst one.
Yes.
So then my lower back is like trash. So by the time I get the deadlifts, I like miss my second and third attempt deadlift and have like regress numbers in the individual lifts and also the overall total. And I was just like dead that day. I remember like the team coach was like handling me, and obviously they trust me because I'm also a coach. So they know I know my numbers and everything. And I would just tell them like, hey, it doesn't feel good, just put on whatever you guys think, whatever. And so obviously they would pull all my numbers down. And then by the time deadlift came, like, they tried pulling my numbers down, but I was just gassed out. And kind of like at that point, I was like, I have to try and separate it. Like if I want to do good as far as an athlete for myself, then I need to separate it from my work or my business as far as coaching. And like, hey, these are the competitions I'm going to coach at. And then I'm going to find other competitions that I can compete at that don't, interfere with that. So I can still focus on my business. I can still focus on my athletes, but then doing my coaching on the side, my competing on the side. So that's kind of when I did a local competition in 2015 at the end of the year to kind of get like better numbers and have my like redemption. And then after that, anytime I've done bigger competitions, now I tend to do just bench press because it's easier to train one lift when I'm working a lot, and it's also easier to compete in that competition when I'm coaching at the other one. So now, even though bench press is my worst lift, I do a lot of like bench press nationals, and I did bench press worlds once and everything like that, just because it's easier to kind of compete in that and then coach in the other competitions.
Yes, absolutely agree. It is really difficult to put together two really different roles.
Yeah. As we're finishing up this podcast, since we're talking about the international scene and coaching and different things like that, is there like I guess we can open up to all competition levels, local, national, international. Is there like a favorite competition that you had or a favorite location that you enjoyed going to?
Whoa, that's a difficult question.
Yeah.
As an athlete, I would say 2024 nationals, because I won this competition, and this was like a dream for me for many years. Still my best competition to the date, because I had a really bad 2025 after, and 2024 was until now was my best year. The setup of the competition was one of the best that we had in Spain for a national competition. And I had Marcos winning. I had Anas going runner-up in their class after Maya in 57. Maya is one of our best lifters of all time. We were really successful, and I had the best prep. I had a perfect prep. I had a perfect competition with 949 and PB on everything. It was just special. But as a coach, Malta will be always special for me, because it was my first open wars as an athlete and as a coach. And I didn't have any athlete going to these wars competing, but I coached with the team, with the Spanish team, and it was my first wars. For me, the first wars are special because it's a whole different experience. Even coming from several Euros, wars is different, and it was a really bad competition. But then we had Junior Worlds in 2024 in Malta as well. It was perfect. Like for me, it was nationals the same year. As a coach, it was Malta, because Marcos won his junior world title. He had the perfect day with a lot of really good things going on, and we enjoyed a lot the trip because Malta is a really good place. And I had this same year, Anna going to Open Euros, and we have the bronze medal on the squad, and our best placing in international, she got fifth. So I love Malta, but as an athlete, I love it that 2024 nationals.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's always a hard question because, like, yeah, there's so many good competitions for different reasons, and it's the same for me. It's always hard to pick one of my favorite ones, not because of the competition, but because the location was when they had the bench press world championships in Tokyo, Japan. Because we go to a lot of European countries. Every once in a while we go to South Africa or maybe North America, but we don't always go to like Asia for world championships. So it was like a different area, and also just Tokyo is just a cool place. So the competition itself was nothing like, special compared to other world championships I've been to, but the experience of like going into Tokyo and doing sightseeing, and we had a good group of us that kind of went to some different places together and hung out and had fun. That was a cool spot for me. So I'm hoping that maybe one day Japan will host something like, let's say, like a Classic Worlds, and everyone kind of gets to experience that.
Great.
The other thing I want to say as well before we finish is, if you want to kind of give some more information about your gym, in case like people who live in Spain or someone's visiting Spain wants to come check out your gym, just the name of it, where it's located, how they can kind of like get information to come check in. People can't really see, but I have the shirt on as well from the time I visited the gym.
Yeah, so we are open pretty much every day, except Sundays. We are in Cádiz, a small city in the south of Spain. We are close to Gibraltar. we visited Gibraltar when you've been here. And if you are in Spain, and especially if you are in Andalusia, Cádiz is a really special city to visit. The gym is rep by rep. Yeah, my philosophy behind the name is to take every rep as a different rep, like set by set, like rep by rep is my one of my kind of view in this sport and the whole life.
Cool. Yeah, and like you said, if anyone happens to be in Spain in that area in Cadiz, or maybe even if they want to kind of come and visit, like Jason and I flew into Madrid and enjoyed Madrid for a day, and then took the train down pretty easily down there. And Cadiz, yeah, is a nice smaller town compared to Madrid, but it's nice, quiet, over by the water. And then it was really cool to go to Gibraltar, so you can come check out the gym and then go to Gibraltar, which is a really cool spot to go. And we're very thankful that you got to take us around there and we got to check that out. And then the last thing I would say, if you want to give like some kind of final message to maybe your clients or gym members or anything, like to the federation, any thank yous or anything, any shout outs like that.
Yeah, I just want to thank you and to thank TSG, because I now work with TSG as a coach. I'm a TSG athlete as well, and it was like a dream for me. I always thanks to everyone that supported me for the last 15 years of my life in the sport life. But yes, I now thankful of everyone that I have in my side. I don't care if it is on the federation, or it is in my gym, or it is in TSG. I'm just thankful of being surrounded with a lot of good people, and to have a good energy, to put together a lot of stuff like this podcast, this talk, or just meeting in an international meet or something like that.
Yep. And of course, I thank you for coming on, spending your time here with me today to kind of discuss this topic. Hopefully coaches and athletes took a lot away from this, as far as like, online coaching versus in-person coaching, and maybe finding ways to do like a hybrid to bring out the best in their athletes if they're a coach, or as an athlete to get the most out of services if they're looking for specific type of coaches and improve, obviously, their strength training or powerlifting goals. And as always, people can check the description of the podcast to get info. We'll put the info as far as Jaime's Instagram account and the gym account and everything like that. If you guys want to link up with Jaime or go to his gym or anything else like that. As always, you guys can leave us feedback. You can drop a comment and tell us if you want Jaime back on and what we should discuss next time. If we want to go more into programming, more into technique, or any other topics, let us know. We can kind of do a future episode. Be sure to like this episode, give us a 5-star rating. And again, thank you, Jaime, for coming on. And we'll check you guys next time on the next episode of the TSG Podcast.
Thank you again.